And welcome back to the channel of Motorbike Nonsense. Now today I want to talk about modern retros. Now if you're a sports bike diehard and you grew up with Valentino Rossi on your duvet covers and tattoos on your face and basically born into a dodgy Hungarian one-piece leather suit, you're probably wondering what the hell the fuss is about. Now let me tell you, retros such as the BMW R9T and the Triumph Bonneville range, of which this, the new Speed Twin, is technically one, they are just fun on the road. They've got loads of torque, not too much speed, and usually they do handle a bit weirdly, but the whole point of bikes like this, the Speed Twin, are to re-inject some of that sports bike handling into something that's just got a bit of charm and a bit oldie worldy vibe. So anyway, new Speed Twin, this is the new one for 2021. I'm going to give you a walk around, show you the new bits, take it for a ride and try not to run out of petrol because there isn't any in the UK anymore, which is great. Here it is then, the updated for 2021 Triumph Speed Twin. This is an £11,000 motorcycle. That's for a black one. If you want red and grey like this, that's an extra £200. There's lots of new stuff for this year. There are some quite minor bits, such as the headlight mount is now grey and anodised, and it's got slightly different looking exhausts, but there's a lot that's changed in the engine and the chassis as well. So you've still got the 1200cc parallel twin with the 270-degree crank. It's got 3 horsepower more than before. It's now 100 horsepower at 7,250 RPM. It's got more mid-range and low-down torque. It's 112 newton meters at 4,250 RPM, and that's 500 RPM lower than before. And it now redlines 500 RPM higher, which is just very exciting. It's got 17% reduction in inertia, so the crankshaft and the alternator are now lighter than ever. And of course, it is Euro 5 compliant, hooray! Now, a few bits of the chassis have changed. You've got these new 43mm Marzocchi forks, which are upside downy ones, so it looks all race bikey. It's got Brembo M50 calipers, and it's on Metzeler Racetech RR tyres, which is 160 section at the rear. So it's got some proper sporting rubber on it, which kind of hints at the potential of what Triumph wants this to do, which is go round corners while still being a charming retro thing. You've also got a slightly different cast wheel design on this, and that's pretty much it. So it's still quite an upright bike. Triumph says they've done a lot to cater for pillions. Sadly, I don't have a capable pillion to test this, and you've got classic clocks which show you everything you need and nothing you don't. So you have, in this screen down here, got a fuel range, which is quite important for today, as I've said. So I've got about 47 miles to go riding. Mode switch there to switch between sport, rain and road, and new for this year as well as they've got separate traction control maps, and you can turn the traction control off as well. So yeah, it's a retro looking thing with all the modern touches that you really need. Obviously it's got traction control, ABS and everything else. That's pretty much it. Do you like the mirrors? They're quite substantial feeling, and they're easy to adjust on the move, but they're not too loose. And obviously they're a nice bar end design as well. Look at that. It's got a little Speed Twin badge here up on the yoke. Hidden key for the filler flap. Obviously it's not keyless, runs off a key, and it just looks pretty bloody nice in this colour, I have to say. As usual, you kind of want to chop the tail on these, but then you get a muddy back once you've done that. Twin exhausts, and it's quite a low bike. Anyway, let's jump on and go for a ride and see if it's any good. Alright, let's hop on then and go for a ride on the new improved Speed Twin. It's quite an easy bike to get on. It's an 809mm seat height, and it weighs, I think, 207 kilos. I'm going to guess that is dry, not wet. But anyway, it's not too heavy. It's a little bit dense, shall we say. Now, key on. And it burbles into life like every Triumph parallel twin we've ever heard before. It's quite an enjoyable little noise. It's not loud, it's not raucous. It's Euro 5. So anyway, let's ease the clutch out and go for a little bimble. Now, what I would say, this engine has always been dead easy to use. Look, there you go, I've got the clutch out, 10 mile an hour in first gear, and it's easy. If I want to pick up the throttle, it's dead smooth, almost creamy. It's kind of got that Cravendale texture that all Triumph parallel twins have off the bottom end, and Triumph has done a fantastic job of the fueling on this bike at low speeds, as you would expect. I just got hit in the eye by a fly, and there's a tractor about to kill me. So yeah, I've done a bit of urban riding on this. I won't bother showing you because it's quite boring to watch, but essentially it's really easy to ride at low speeds. It does get a bit warm, I have noticed that, and the bars are super, well, narrow really, so you can filter really easily and with confidence. Now, at normal riding speeds, the suspension does a really good job. It's not too firm, it's definitely not sports bike firm. Yeah, it's got a bit more to it than your regular Bonneville, which can be a little bit on the blancmange side of the dessert suspension spectrum. This this is something else entirely. It's kind of retro sporty. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's not like an S1000R or an Aprilia Tuono. It still lets you feel the road though, which is really nice when you start to press on, as we will in a bit. But it's well judged. You know, Triumph aren't going to release a retro bike that is rock hard, rattle your fillings out, because let's be honest, quite a lot of people who ride these haven't got their own teeth anymore. But it's going to be enjoyable. Sneak preview of what's coming up. Anyway, I'm going to stop prattling on. I'm going to do a very brief bit at motorway speed so I can tell you about what it's like on the motorway, and then we'll get to some new fun roads that I have discovered where this bike feels right at home. So yes, back in a second. Yes, one thing I did forget to point out in my walk around is the indicator switch. It doesn't feel cheap, it's just hidden away a bit. You end up having to look to find it, and it's a bit disappointing. I think Triumph has done better indicator switches, so for 11 grand it doesn't feel like you're getting their best work. So yeah, it's just a little bit, it's a bit hidden. I end up looking for it, which is obviously not what you want. Anyway, just in case you're wondering what I was going on about, look, big busy Esso petrol station, and no petrol, no diesel, because we don't have enough lorry drivers to deliver it, and everyone's been panic buying it like knobs. Right, I am in sport mode. Let's come off, let's get up to 70. That is 70 miles an hour and 8 bit on the new Triumph Speed Twin. I'm in 6th gear, which I can tell because there's a gear indicator on the clock. So I mean, I'm going to ignore the fact it's the same icon that I had on my Street Triple in 2009, but it does the job, tells you the gear that you're in. You might not be able to hear me because it is quite windy, because it's a naked bike, and yes, there is a fair bit of wind blast. Now I am bent forward, I think more than on other naked Bonneville type things. I sense, you know, a bit more bend in my elbows. And yeah, 70 miles an hour is about 3,700 RPM in top gear, and it only revs to 7,000, so I'm halfway through the revs at the motorway limit in the UK, and it's comfortable. I mean, I can feel some vibes, but they're mostly through the tank between my knees. They're not coming up through the bars or the seat. Therefore, this is comfortable for long distances. It doesn't have cruise control though, or heated grips, or anything. It's very much a high days and happy days motorbike, but the first 3 tours I ever did around Europe, I didn't have cruise control or heated grips either. In fact, I've never had cruise control. But yeah, heated grips would be nice. They're probably on the options list. And there are something like 50 different accessories for this bike to tart it up, but nothing to make it louder, as is the way with Triumph these days. The noise you get from the factory is the noise you got to keep, I'm afraid. Anyway, let's get some twisty roads. I'm not going to be able to go to the really sexy twisty roads that I planned, because I don't have enough petrol to get there and still get home. And as much as I love YouTube and the 50p a month it makes me, I don't really fancy pushing a motorbike home. Right, 2nd gear around here. Yeah, it's confidence inspiring if that old lady stays there. Yeah, it gives you the confidence to chuck it into bends and roundabouts like that. And on the side of the tyre, it feels really nice. It would actually be quite a fun bike to do a track day on. But that said, as I said at the start of this video, it isn't rock hard, and it has concessions for road use, and that does mean when you start riding it really quickly, and it does encourage that,
at the end of its suspension travel, it can get a little bit wallowy, but I mean, you are properly motoring when you're doing that. Still, I think this is my favourite handling retro-ish bike that I've had. The suspension is certainly plusher than the R9T, which can be a bit firm on the rear shock, and it's got loads of go, loads of poke for overtakes. And I know it doesn't sound like much increasing the rev limit by 500 RPM, but it really does help. I rode the version of this with the lower rev limit in the Scrambler 1200 last year, and it's got so much torque and a bit of a top end on it, so you do want to rev it out. And I was forever batting into the rev limiter on that Scrambler, but on this it's not really much of a problem. So good work Triumph by increasing the rev limit. In reality, that's probably just how they've clawed back the horsepower that they lost by making it Euro 5 to give it a bit more power, if that makes sense. But yeah, loads of mid-range shaft. It is a deliciously torquey engine. Fourth gear on a 60 limit road, maybe in fifth gear is all you really need, because it just goes, and it's a really beautiful smooth lump of torque that you get with a great sound to it as well. So yeah, this is definitely one of the most addictive road bikes I've ridden in the year, possibly. It's just that combination of slightly soft but slightly sporty suspension, decent tyres, and really good brakes. We should talk about the brakes. This Brembo N50s, I thought they were going to be sharper than they are, but the initial bite isn't actually that sharp, which is quite nice, because, you know, it's a retro bike and that just kind of suits the nature of it. But when you do grab them, my god, can you stop this thing quickly. It is brilliant, the way you can slow this down. There we go. Right, twisty roads are coming up. This is not it. But yeah, just bimbling like this at kind of 5/10 of that is just super confidence inspiring. I like that. I'm going from 30 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour. I'm going to do it in third gear just to show the torque. I could drop to second, but there we go. Full throttle. Oh, it's quick. There's 60 miles an hour. Up into fourth. No quick shifter or blipper, but really easy to do clutchless upshifts on. I'm going to click up into fifth for this. So, corner. I'm doing the speed limit. I love it. It's just, you drop your elbows and you punch the bars to turn it in, like you would on a modern naked. And you know, when you then straighten the bars after the corner, you kind of push the bars on the opposite side, it doesn't wiggle, it doesn't get out of shape. And often on these more softly sprung retro bikes, it's that bit of the corner where you find it starts to get a bit out of shape. Now, one negative before I forget is that the tank is quite narrow between your knees, because it doesn't need to be wider, it's a parallel twin, but it could really use some grips on it. I know Triumph used to sell rubber grips that made it look a bit old manny, but it'd be nice if they could come up with a cool design, because you do want to hang off it and exiting the corner with the front wheel skipping off the ground. Yeah, it is a properly addictive riding experience, and it does little wheelies out of corners. Second gear, you crack it open and it's just hopping and going light, and it is quick. It is really, really quick. It is such a lovely amount of power. If you can't tell, I really like the way the new Speed Twin rides. It feels like it's got the brakes and the suspension chops to keep up with that pokey engine now. And it can be a bit of a hooligan when you want it to be. It gives you a feeling of being alive. It's not completely tied down. Gas it in second gear over a crest, and the front will hop up. And obviously you've got electronics to look after you, but you can turn them off if you want. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this, and I think I've ridden this faster across bumpy B roads than that S1000R. I think it's just because this has got more, well, seemingly more low down grunt. It might not actually have on paper, but it's just a more enjoyable ride. And the sticky tyres on this, you really sense the extra grip from them. Triumph aren't messing about when it comes to the handling of this bike. They've delivered such a nice blend of this kind of characterful power and torque in any gear, with a chassis that can keep up with it, and it eggs you on into making the most of it. I rode this in a one-piece leather suit last week. I looked like an absolute penis, but it felt alright. I felt like I could go out and drag my knees around roundabouts. I didn't, because, well, it was a bit wet, and I can't. But anyway, it's a really fun sporty retro to ride, and it has gone to the top of my list of fun to ride retros. It's overtaken the R9T, which if you've watched the channel you'll know I've got a bit of a thing for. So yeah, downsides though, that indicator switch, it's only got 14.5 litre petrol tank, but everything has these days pretty much. And some of the clocks, the digital bit, looks a bit old. It's an 11 grand bike, which these days is mid-range probably. There's a lot to like about it. Yeah, so go and have a go on one. Just because it looks like the rest of the Triumph Retro range doesn't mean it rides like it. It's a riot. Go and have a go, have fun, and keep up with your sports bike mates. Oh yeah, the other downside, as I said, when you're properly going for it on a bumpy road, it does kick you out the saddle a bit, and you do feel the suspension is starting to lose its fight against physics, and it does get a bit bouncy, but it's half the fun, to be honest. If it was a proper sports bike, you would think that's crap, but you kind of forgive this. You give it a little bit of extra wiggle room in your brain and in your judgment because it looks so beautiful. Okay, I think I've waffled on quite a bit about how much I like this. Very good bike, well done Triumph. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you've liked this video, it really helps me if you hit like. And if you've absolutely hated it, thought it was the worst review of the Speed Twin on YouTube, hit like anyway, because I like you, and we're all good people, and you can forgive me this one awful video. And do subscribe, there's more nonsense coming up, and also check out my car channel, Tim Roadie Drive Stuff, because I'm going to drive some Bugattis in a few weeks, and I've not actually told anyone that yet. That was meant to be a secret, so you're the first to know. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time when I won't be on a beautiful burbling British made in Thailand bike. Goodbye.